For centuries, humanity had been fascinated with the remnants of ancient civilizations. Old manuscripts, dead languages, and forgotten rituals. Humans reveled in the preservation of knowledge, whether it was their own or that of alien species. While many considered Earth to be a backwater planet, cut off from the core of the galactic community, humanity's obsession with the past gave them an unexpected advantage. It was this love of history, this reverence for ancient texts, that would ultimately propel humanity into a new chapter of galactic history. It began when a distress signal was intercepted from a remote corner of the galaxy. The transmission was an urgent cry for help from an alien race called the Mothari, a once great species that had, according to their own history, fallen into obscurity after their empire collapsed centuries ago. They were now struggling against an enemy they couldn't defeat. But the Mothari had a secret, a powerful artifact, capable of shifting the balance of power in the galaxy. The artifact was a relic from their empire, an object of immense power that could either save or destroy the galaxy, depending on who controlled it. But there was a catch. It could only be activated by those who spoke the ancient language of the Mothari, and more surprisingly, a language that had long since died out on their own world, Latin. The Mothari had left the artifact behind in a vast, forgotten city on a planet called Trivon, hoping it would one day be discovered. They had no idea that the secret language it required was already buried in the ruins of their civilization, waiting to be unlocked. For centuries, the planet had remained hidden from galactic explorers. But as the Mothari's enemies began to close in, their last desperate hope was to find someone who could read the ancient texts and activate the artifact's power. The Mothari's last-ditch plea reached the ears of the human government. Humanity had long been a part of the galactic community, but they had always been seen as minor players in the grand scheme of things. Their technology was primitive by galactic standards, their military forces weak compared to the might of the other species, and their knowledge of other races' cultures was limited. But when the Mothari revealed that the key to unlocking the artifact was a long-dead Earth language, Latin, it was clear that humanity had a unique advantage. Latin, one of Earth's most ancient languages, had been preserved in the archives of countless libraries, universities, and historical societies. It had been passed down through generations, taught in schools across the globe, and studied by scholars for centuries. For the Mothari, it was a forgotten tongue. For humanity, it was a living one. The task was given to Dr. Amelia Vale, a renowned archaeologist and linguist, whose expertise in ancient languages and cultures made her the perfect candidate. She had spent years decoding lost texts and unraveling the mysteries of ancient civilizations. But this mission was different. This was no simple academic exercise. It was a race against time to activate a weapon that could alter the course of galactic history. Amelia, along with a small team of human explorers, traveled to Trivon. The planet was a desolate wasteland, covered in crumbling ruins and overgrown with alien flora. As they entered the heart of the ancient city, they were struck by the enormity of the structures around them. Towering spires rose into the sky, their surfaces etched with alien symbols that seemed to shift as they approached. The technology that had once powered the Mothari Empire was long gone, but the knowledge remained, hidden beneath layers of dust and decay. In the center of the city stood a massive temple, its entrance flanked by two colossal statues of Mothari warriors. Inside, the walls were covered in intricate carvings that told the story of the Mothari's rise to power and their eventual downfall. But it was the altar at the center of the temple that held the artifact that could change the fate of the galaxy. The artifact was a crystalline structure, glowing with a soft, pulsing light. It seemed to hum with energy, as though it were alive, waiting for something or someone to activate it. Amelia approached the altar cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. She had studied the texts, translated the symbols, and learned the rituals that the Mothari had once used to unlock the artifact's power. But the final step required something that no other species could provide: humanity's knowledge of Latin. As Amelia began to speak the ancient language aloud, the room around her seemed to come alive. The symbols on the walls shifted and morphed, rearranging themselves into new patterns as the artifact responded to the words. The Mothari's long-forgotten language was awakening something deep within the artifact, a hidden mechanism that had lain dormant for centuries. But as the activation process began, it wasn't just the artifact that responded. The entire planet of Trivon began to tremble. The Mothari, who had been monitoring the humans from afar, knew that something was happening, but they didn't understand it. They had forgotten the power of their own creation. The humans had unlocked the artifact, but in doing so, they had inadvertently triggered a response that the Mothari were unprepared for. The artifact was far more powerful than anyone had anticipated. As the activation continued, a massive energy surge erupted from the artifact, enveloping the temple and spilling out into the surrounding city. The ground shook violently, and the sky above them darkened as a massive storm system formed, drawing power from the artifact's energy. The artifact had begun to channel energy, not just into the Mothari's hands, but into the very fabric of the planet itself. Amelia realized that they had activated something far beyond what they had intended. The artifact was not just a weapon, it was a device capable of altering entire ecosystems, shifting the balance of energy across the galaxy. As the Mothari arrived at the temple, they were astonished to see the power they had once controlled now flowing freely. The artifact's energy was unstable, and they feared it might consume everything in its path. With only moments to spare, Amelia and her team raced to find a way to stabilize the artifact. They knew that unless they could find a way to contain its power, it would destroy everything, Trivon, the Mothari, and possibly even the galaxy itself. With the Mothari's help, they discovered an ancient failsafe embedded in the artifact's design, an ancient code written in Latin that could reverse the activation. Amelia spoke the words once more, carefully, deliberately, as the artifact's energy reached its peak. For a brief moment, the world held its breath. Then slowly, the energy began to dissipate, the artifact's glow fading, and the tremors subsiding. The artifact was no longer a weapon of mass destruction. Instead, it had become a tool for galactic renewal, capable of restoring dying worlds and stabilizing failing ecosystems. The Mothari, once dismissive of humanity's ability to understand their ancient language, now saw them in a new light. They had not only unlocked the artifact's power, they had saved their civilization from destruction. The Mothari had underestimated humanity's love for ancient knowledge, not realizing that it was this very passion that would be their salvation. As the dust settled on the planet of Trivon, the human explorers stood in awe of the power they had unleashed. But they also understood the responsibility that came with it. The artifact was no longer just a relic of an ancient civilization. It was a symbol of humanity's place in the galaxy, a place earned through knowledge, preservation, and the wisdom to know when to wield power and when to let it rest.